Self-Care for the Signs. I am Christine, aka the Dreamy Piscean, and today we are back for our last installment of the series and the best, the water signs. Stay tuned and let's jump in to Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. All right, before we jump into Cancer, I want to just make this, announcement as I do on every part of this series. If you have not checked out episode 69 of the I'm Such a Pisces podcast, go over there, have a listen. I cover about 5 self-care practices for each sign in that episode. And so I will touch on those things here, but I won't go into depth in the ones that I've already touched on in that episode. So make sure you're checking out that episode too, and just check out the I'm Such a Pisces podcast. We're a good time, all right? So let's get into Cancer. All right. Cancer, it's our first water sign, our cardinal sign here. So the first practice for Cancer is, the first 2 practices for Cancer are things I covered in the episode. So I'm going to hit these pretty quick, and then we're going to keep moving, all right? So the first one is having a nurturing environment, okay, Cancer? So, Cancer is the sign of home, right? Home and family. So that nurturing home environment is going to be huge. So surrounding yourself with nurturing and cozy environments filled with blankets, soft, soothing colors, and sentimental items. That's going to make you feel like you are well cared for in your home, because that home space, like I've said before, your home is your sanctuary, right? And Cancer especially so. So really make your home space that space where you feel very comfortable, very cozy, and have, the things that remind you of your loved ones, if not your loved ones there, sentimental items, things like that. Make sure you have those in your home, all right? Number 2 is having an emotional release. Now, we are in our water signs, and we know these are the signs that are, these are our feelers. These are our more sensitives, right? In various ways. We'll talk about Scorpio next. Scorpio is probably the fieriest of our water energies, but we all have a level of emotionality. So, allowing yourself to feel and express your emotions in a safe and healthy way. And that's very much a key, right? A safe and healthy way. Whether that's going to be through journaling, talking to a trusted friend, or seeking therapy. Always a proponent for therapy. Like, go to therapy, people. So having that space where you can really express yourself and release those emotions. We definitely know that keeping those emotions pent up is a recipe for disaster. So get it out, friends, okay? Number 3 is comfort food. So, Taurus likes to eat, but we also know Cancer likes to eat. And Cancer likes those good comfort foods. Now, Cancer likes to cook too. Taurus more enjoys the food. They might not want to cook it. They might not. But Cancer loves to cook. Cancer loves to be in the kitchen. So, Cancer's home, the kitchen is truly the heart of the home in a Cancer's home. So having, indulging in those comforting and nourishing foods that are going to evoke feelings of warmth, right? And security, such as maybe homemade soups or stews or baked goods. Those are always nice for Cancer. We want to have good, comforting foods, but also, try to make sure we're healthy, right? Like, we always want to make sure that when we are comforting ourselves, with food, that maybe we're comforting ourselves with good, nourishing foods that are good for our bodies as well. Not just like, the BS, like, don't fill yourself with processed foods, like, for comfort. Because that's not, really the best care for your body. That's a different kind of, that's not self-care as far as your physical self-care. It might be great for your emotions to, eat all that mac and cheese, right? But like, is that good for your physical body? So try to have a balance there, right? We like our comfort foods, and our comfort foods are usually not our healthy foods. When we're talking about comfort food, we're not usually talking about healthy food. So try to find a balance there. Find something that you enjoy and that's comforting, but also isn't like terrible for your body. Okay, number 4 is quality time. So again, Cancer really is a sign that loves to be with their families and close loved ones, right? So having quality time with those that, you love and uplift you and encourage you, whether it's through intimate conversations, shared meals, or like a cozy movie night at home, right? Again, Cancers love to be at home. So just pulling your loved ones close and having that quality time is really going to fill your cup. Number 5 is creative expression. So, again, we're in our water energies, and these are our more creative energies. All that sensitivity has to go somewhere, right? And so, we are often very creative individuals. So having that space where you can channel your emotions into creative outlets like art, music, writing, those are really going to help you process and express those feelings. Number 6, having a self-care ritual. This is another one we talked about on the podcast. So, establishing self-care rituals. So we're talking as a whole here about self-care, right? But having a ritual, establishing a ritual, a process, if you will, of your self-care. Like, okay, I'm going to go, it might be a few things on the list, right? And that becomes a ritual for you. So kind of creating that for yourself. So you might do something like a nightly skincare routine, or, if you're into baths, there's all kind of things that you can do ritualistically. Gentle yoga, finding ways to just nurture yourself on a regular basis. That is going to be key, okay? Number 7 is finding that nature connection. So again, our water signs usually like our nature connection to be near some body of water. Not a bottle of water, but a body of water. So, spending that time in nature is going to allow you to recharge and connect with the natural world. Now, it can be, walking in the park, gardening, stargazing. I love stargazing. Stargazing experience. Love that. But if you can get near a body of water, that's always going to be calming for you, right? If you've got a lake near you, a pond, an ocean. I mean, we love an ocean, but we don't all have the privilege of living near one. But just any body of water, really does help soothe those emotions that can get kind of high. Like the tides of emotion inside can get kind of high. And so you got to go and get near a body of water and just let that calm back down, right? Number 8 is setting boundaries. Again, boundaries come up for all of us, and especially our water signs, because, we can be people pleasers, maybe not Scorpio. But Cancer and Pisces definitely probably have a little thing with people pleasing. We want to make everyone around us happy and everyone to be good. So really practicing setting boundaries with others, again, to protect our emotional well-being is going to honor your own needs and desires. So we've got to protect our energy, okay? Protect your energy. Number 9 is rest and recharge. So, Cancer already likes to be at home, right? So, hey, just make sure you get some rest while you're there. So listening to your body's signals for rest and relaxation. Listen to your body. I often tell my friends, especially I'll say my air sign friends who are very often busy, socializing, being out and about, just doing all the things, right? Like, you got to take time for rest, because if you don't take the time, eventually your body will sit you down. And when your body sits you down, it's not a good thing, right? So take the time before your body does it for you, okay? So rest and recharge. You might take a little nap. We love a nap. Some quiet time alone. Like, rest doesn't necessarily have to be sleep, but taking time when you're not active, right? Having time to not be active and doing things all the time. You might just, lay and watch an episode of your favorite, television show or something. That's rest, right? You might read a book. That's rest. Things that are, just letting your body not be active, right? or go to bed early. Sometimes I feel kind of bad, when I go to bed early. Not my body feels bad, but somehow I feel like, I have FOMO or something. Like, what am I missing out on by going to bed early? Like another episode of something. Like, what am I doing up that late? I'm not out, right? So, like, what is it hurting me to go to bed early? Like, is someone going to come and, like, shame me because I went to bed at 10 or something? I mean, and, like, 10 isn't even that really early. But something in me often feels like I need to stay up until midnight, because if not, what am I doing? I'm like, well, what are you doing? And I usually fall asleep on the couch. And that's the funniest thing. I usually fall asleep on the couch if I stay up. So you might as well just go to bed. So get your time for rest and recharge, Cancer, okay? Number 10 is having a gratitude practice. We've talked about this with several signs. I think it's important for everyone to have a practice of gratitude. So, cultivating that as a daily practice, focusing on the positive aspects of your life, and fostering a sense of contentment and fulfillment. That's going to be great for your self-care. The more we find things to be grateful for and thankful for, the brighter our outlook tends to be, the better our mindset tends to be. Number 11 is memory keeping. Now, this is one, again, we talked about on the podcast, but preserving your cherished memories through scrapbooking or photo albums, journaling, and allowing yourself to reminisce and reflect on those happy moments. Now, everyone's not, crafty, and we are talking about water signs, so we do tend to be a little crafty. So, a scrapbooking, physical scrapbooking isn't your thing. Thinking about even ways to digitize that, right? So there's digital scrapbooking. They have those, those digital frames now that you can, keep different pictures in, and they just kind of rotate through your collection. I think my family has, like, everyone's got, I think one of my cousins bought, like, each nuclear family in our family, a digital photo frame, and, like, we can all upload different pictures from different things going on, and so we can all see those photos from different events in our homes, and that's kind of cool. I love that idea that he did that. So he's not a Cancer, but he might have some Cancer placements. He's actually a Virgo, so things like that, just finding ways to keep up with your memories, with the things that are really important to you. That's going to be just really great for your self-care, right? Number 12 is having a support network. I get by with a little help from my friends, right? Having support from your friends, your family, a therapist when needed. And don't hesitate to reach out for help during challenging times. Again, don't always like to ask for help. And I don't know if that's I don't think that's a water sign thing. I think that's just specific to people. But we don't really like to ask for help. So making sure that you just have people around you, a support network that just understands and that you can really be real and authentic with, so that when you have those moments that you really do need to reach out, there are people that understand and are willing to help. Number 13 is embrace a hippie lifestyle. Is it hippie? Look, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right now. I should have made sure that I had the pronunciation right before I got on to record this one. But it is a Danish concept which emphasizes coziness, comfort, and simplicity, right? Very Cancerian. So creating those cozy spaces and enjoying those simple pleasures is going to really, again, feed your spirit. It's going to fill your cup. That hippie lifestyle has Cancer written all over it. If there was a lifestyle that was specific to astrology, like, hippie would be very much there for Cancer. Number 14 is having emotional boundaries. So, we talk about in general having boundaries, but for our water signs, again, we tend to really, make those bids for connection emotionally. And so really practicing discernment about who you are sharing with, but also in your relationships by maintaining those healthy emotional boundaries and surrounding yourself with supportive and understanding individuals. So part of it is just having discernment about who is in your space, who is around you, because those people are going to be very important. Make sure they're people that really care, right? Like, that are really there for you. And so emotional oversharing, right, with people that maybe you don't know as well, those are things we want to avoid. So really practicing having those strong emotional boundaries is going to be important. And the last one for Cancer is practicing self-compassion. Cancer can be a little hard on themselves, kind of like Virgos, but not quite as extreme. But be gentle and kind with yourself, okay? Especially during times of self-doubt and difficulty. Remember to treat yourself with the same compassion that you offer to others. Cancer is very compassionate with others, very caring, very loving towards others. Please show yourself the same kind of love, okay? Please show yourself the same kind of love. All right, so it seemed like that went kind of fast. But we talked for about 15 minutes. So that's all we have for Cancer. And we're going to come on next with Scorpio. Scorpio. Now, Scorpio gets a bad rap out here, you know. Scorpio is known for their intensity. They're known to be, you know, not as soft, you know, as we would say Cancer and Pisces are, right? Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, and its traditional ruler is Mars. So Scorpio has always had a lot of very intense, fiery, strong energy, right? We've got Cancer ruled by the moon. We've got Pisces ruled by Neptune, traditionally Jupiter. So yeah, like those energies, not as intense, right? Moon definitely not very intense. But Neptune and Jupiter aren't bringing a lot of intense energy. They have other energy, but not intensity. So Scorpio gets it honestly, right? Like, you know, sometimes we gotta give them a break a little bit, because I mean that truly is the energy that they bring to the table. Like the planets that rule Scorpio, it makes sense. So let's talk about how Scorpios can take care of themselves, okay? Number one is emotional expression. So allowing yourself, Scorpio, to fully experience and express your emotions in healthy ways, okay? Not destructive ways, not manipulative ways. So maybe trying something like journaling, art, right? Talking to a trusted friend or a therapist. Again, I think we all need therapy, so that, you know, therapist is not necessarily something I wrote for every one of the signs, but again, therapy, gratitude practice, spending time in nature, boundary setting, all of those things are going to be helpful for all of us in various ways. So finding a space for emotional expression, so in whatever way that needs to happen. You definitely need to get those emotions out, because you know, again, with Pluto and Mars as your rulers, not getting those emotions out means probably not a good time for someone else in your life, including yourself. So find those healthy ways to express your emotions, Scorpio. Okay, number 2 is introspection. So setting aside time for introspection and self-reflection, right? To explore your innermost thoughts, feelings, and desires, right? So in this space, I recommend shadow work. Shadow work is perfect for Scorpios, and I'm sure that Scorpios are probably like experts at shadow work, right? Because there's a lot of shadow in there. There's a lot of shadow that needs to be worked out, okay? So having that time to really reflect and have some introspection. All right, now, like I said, the one for all of our signs, right? Boundaries, having boundaries. So practicing setting clear boundaries with others to protect your own energy and well-being, and assertively communicating your needs and limits. something we all just have to really make sure we're working on. So I'm not going to, spend a lot of time on boundaries because we talked about it for literally every sign. Number 4 is one that we talked about on the podcast, having a healthy outlet, right? So again, Scorpio has a lot of intense emotions, right? The things that you're experiencing are very intense. So channeling those intense emotions and energy into constructive outlets, such as exercise. Again, Mars is the traditional ruler for Scorpio, so exercise will be a really good way to get that, to have a healthy outlet, right? Working your body out. Yes. Creative pursuits. Again, these are our water signs, so we are innately very creative beings, or volunteer work. So, using that energy to help somebody else, right? Number 5, mindfulness. Practicing mindfulness. So incorporating mindfulness practices such as meditation, deep breathing exercises to ground yourself and to cultivate that inner peace, right? The storm rages in Scorpio, right? That storm, that inner storm can get to raging. So really having a practice for mindfulness and really clearing the mind, having a time to just really focus in, that's going to be a really good one for you, Scorpio. Number 6, quality connections. Okay, quality connections. Now, Scorpio, again, pretty good at discernment about people. So Scorpio is probably more suspect of people, if anything. They're not, I don't know if discernment is the word. I think it's more suspicious or suspicion. They tend to be more suspicious of other people. So they're discerning in the people that are around them, in the fact that they just, everyone is kind of sus until they kind of feel you out and see if you can be, one of theirs. So cultivating deep and meaningful connections with a select few individuals who understand and support you on a profound level. Scorpio's not necessarily always the person that has a huge group of friends, right? That's more like air sign energy anyway. Like, again, we talked about in our last episode, air signs are a lot more social. They're out there. They love just being around people. And our water signs are more, more hermit-like. Like we like to be in, we like to be with a close few people. We're not really like big group of friends. People were like, these are my, ride or dies, and it's a small select few. So making sure, those people that you have around you are, those really deep and meaningful connections. Number 7 is personal growth. Again, this is one we talked about on the podcast. So embracing opportunities for personal growth and transformation, and being open to exploring the depths of your psyche. Again, this is where that shadow work comes in. So really getting into the whys and the whats, the patterns that you're living out, and maybe finding ways to transform and transcend and to change, right? And grow. Number 8, self-trust. Now, what did I just say? Scorpios, very suspicious, maybe even of themselves. So learning to trust your intuition and your inner wisdom. Now this is more, tuning into, again, water signs tend to be more intuitive. And so I think that there is a practice for all of us in really learning to trust that intuition. There's so many spaces in the world that kind of tell us to trust other things outside of ourselves, right? But really learning to trust your gut, really learning to trust your intuition and let that lead you. Your inner wisdom, and let that lead you. That is going to be a major factor for you, Scorpio. Scorpios, are some of our, wise sages, and our wisdom, leaders out here. So learning to trust that in yourself, Scorpio. Listen to your instincts with making decisions, or navigating those challenging situations, right? So again, just tuning into yourself. So the way that happens is you've got to spend time with yourself, by yourself. You got to do that shadow work. You got to do that growth work. That's how you really learn to trust that peace inside of you. Number 9, again, another one. Number 9 and number 10 are things that we talked about on the podcast. So number 9 is having that physical release, which we talked about. Again, traditional ruler is Mars. So Mars, is, a lot of physical energy and needs a lot of that energy that needs to get out, right? And so whether it is, working out, whether you're going to the gym, whether you're, going on a little more strenuous hike, just doing things to really make your body be active is going to be helpful. It's going to be helping you release that pent-up energy and tension. So really finding a vigorous, I love a vigorous, exercise. That's very Martian, very Mars energy, vigorous workout, right? We're not talking about gentle yoga here. We're not talking about gentle practices. We're really talking about things that are going to work out that energy, that intensity that you have existing inside of you. Now, number 10 is healing practices. So, again, these are our sensitives. These are our healers of the Zodiac, our water signs, our intuitives. So really diving into those healing practices by exploring holistic healing modalities such as Reiki, acupuncture, or energy work to promote your balance and healing on a deep level. So all of this stuff works together, right? We've got our rituals, we've got mindfulness, we've got doing our shadow work, we're setting boundaries, we're being introspective, we're finding healthy ways to release our emotions. All of that is coming together. And then having a healing practice in your life, all of that is working together for your transformation and your growth, right? Because we know that Scorpio is all about transformation. We're taking these difficult experiences that many Scorpios have in their lifetimes and really finding ways to transform that, because out of those difficult experiences, more than likely there is something that you have to offer the world from that. But you got to do the work to get there. Number 11. This one's interesting, right? Boundary pushing. So we talk about having boundaries, setting boundaries to protect our own energy. And now we're talking about finding ways to challenge yourself to step outside of your comfort zone and confront your fears in order to experience that growth and empowerment, right? So again, Scorpio, a lot of times there's some heavy stuff that's happened in your lifetime. And so we often, we retreat, right? We're like, I'm going to stay where I'm safe and I'm comfortable. But the growth really comes, again, and most like motivational speakers and people that you listen to will tell you, the growth comes from stepping outside of the place that you're comfortable, stepping outside of the place that you feel the most safe and like protected, right? Sometimes you got to step a little bit outside of that, not far, right? Just test the boundaries, right? Push them just a little bit, okay, all right, we're okay here. Okay, push a little bit more. That's what's going to help us really grow. Okay, so the next one, number 12, not number 11, is having alone time. We all need that alone time, right? Sit, reflect, talk. That's when that introspection and that shadow work happens. Like you're probably not doing shadow work if you're watching the kids, or if you're spending time with your friends, or you're not doing that work. So you have to have time by yourself so you can really sit with yourself, sit with your emotions, really reflect and be introspective about those things. That's where that's going to happen. So honor that need for solitude and privacy by carving out that time for yourself, okay? Recharge and connect with your innermost self. That's going to happen in that alone time. All right, number 13. This is the last one that we talked about on the podcast, and that is having a passion project. Pursuing hobbies or projects that ignite your passion and enthusiasm and allow yourself to immerse fully in your interests. I love that. I love it. Just like get into the things that really just make you tick, just like get you going, right? Like lean into that. Lean into those things. So having yourself a passion project that you can just pour yourself into, a big one for Scorpio. All right, our last two for Scorpio, number 14 is nature connection, right? spending time in nature to ground yourself, finding solace in the beauty and the tranquility of the natural world. Again, if you can get near a body of water, a lake, a stream, an ocean, a river even, getting near water is always going to be healing for us water signs. So finding that time to really reconnect with nature and reconnect with yourself in turn. Lastly, number 15, forgiveness. Scorpio, you're known to hold a little grudge. You're known to, that intense energy, happens in that way. So practicing forgiveness, both towards yourself, because sometimes we don't forgive ourselves for things, right? We're hardest likely on ourselves. So forgive yourself, forgive others in order to release those resentments and cultivate a greater emotional freedom and peace, right? So part of that work is releasing all of that, right? We're trying to release all of this energy. So if we haven't forgiven someone, again, it's not so they can come back in and do the thing again or whatever. You might have a boundary with them, but you have forgiven them, right? Because the forgiveness, a lot of times we talk about the forgiveness is for you. The forgiveness is so you can release that and let that go and let that, not be a thing that is existing in your heart, a darkness that's just sitting in your heart because you can't let it go, right? Release that, and set a boundary. If that person is not a person that you feel like needs to continue to be in your life, release them, let them go. It's fine. Toodles, see you later. Or not. All right, Scorpio, that is the end of your self-care practices. Again, let me know if you're doing these things, if these things seem like they may be helpful for you. Give me a little feedback. Let me know. And we'll be back next with our Pisceans. Last but not least, our beautiful, dreamy Pisceans. The best sign, our last sign of the Zodiac, the dreamy Pisceans themselves, Pisces, right? All right, now Pisces, how are we going to take care of ourselves? Now this, hopefully I don't get too long here, but hey, I got experience, all right? So the first thing we're going to talk about as a self-care practice for Pisces is creative expression. Now we are very creative beings. We're doing all kinds of things, all kinds of arts and crafts and music and, just anything that is creative. We're into it, right? So find that thing that is yours, or the many things that you enjoy creatively, and tap into that vivid imagination that we have, right? And express your creativity through artistic outlets, right? Like painting, writing, music. Just allow yourself to express your emotions and ideas freely. Just give yourself the time to just create, right? Sometimes it's hard for me specifically to go into a creative project with a plan. Sometimes, occasionally it happens, but really, I think what I have found for myself is that I just need the space to freely create. And I look at other artists and they're like, they've got like a mapped out plan of like what's going to be created or like whatever. And I'm like, I've tried that. And I'm like, I think that's just not for me. I think what I need to be able to do is just do this freely and just let whatever happens happen. And that's kind of the most fun. It's just like seeing where the art takes you, seeing where that creative expression takes you. So get into it, Pisces. Number 2 is one we talked about on the podcast, and it is mindful escapes. Now we know Pisces is known for escapism. We are always trying to escape the realities of this harsh, cruel world. And so we want to do this mindfully, right? Like we know that we're going to find something that is escapism. When I was not small child, but when I was young, my first escapism was reading. And I just was always enjoying getting lost in a book. And as I came to understand astrology, I understood that as my escapism. Like, oh, that's how I was escaping. I was, reading. I was going into someone else's life, someone else's journey in the world. And often it was fiction. But that was my escape. Now that I'm an adult, I have some other escapes that some people may find to be vices. But, that is also part of Pisces energy. So, we get it honestly. But if it's a problem, get help for your problems. All right. So, anyways, mindful escapes. We're wanting to engage in activities that allow us to escape reality and immerse ourselves in a world of imagination and fantasy, such as reading, daydreaming, or watching movies. These are healthier, mindful ways. Now, here's the caveat with that, right? Don't just let yourself go, right? Because Pisces is, we are also known for a pity party, known for like, oh, woe is me, martyrdom, like, things like that. So we're really wanting to be mindful about this. Don't let yourself wallow in anything. But yeah, take some time and just allow yourself, to escape mindfully. One of my favorite escapes is reality television. Like, I know some people hate reality television, and they're like, it's not real. And I'm like, yes, that's not that's not the point. If it was too real, I wouldn't want to watch it, honestly. Because it reminds me too much of real life. So just watching other people getting to like little petty stuff and do whatever, that it's just good escapism for me. It's just things I don't have to think hard about. It's mindless almost, which is not mindful. Mindless and mindful, very different. But mindfulness is really tuning into like how much time you allow yourself with that kind of activity, right? Like, we don't again want to just veg out all day if we don't have the time, right? We don't want to just let go of our responsibilities and things, and just mindlessly be, wallowing in watching TV or whatever, daydreaming for the whole day. Like, give yourself a little time. The mindfulness piece is really being intentional about the time that you're giving to that, right? So, number 3 is finding that nature connection, right? So we've talked about this with our other water signs, spending time near bodies of water, whether oceans, lakes, rivers, streams, ponds. You got a fountain in your backyard. Like, I love a fountain. Like, if I had an outdoor space, I really want to bring a fountain inside. I just don't know how it's gonna, how that's gonna work, and it's got to be feng shui. If I bring a fountain in, there's things about the directions that fountain is facing and things like that, because fountains, represent our prosperity, and so we definitely want that water to be moving in the right direction. But that's another topic. But spending time near bodies of water. Or spending time with water elements and water features. So that's why fountains can be helpful in that area as well, because even just sitting near a fountain and listening to that trickle of water is a very calming sound for us water signs, and really for many people. But, taking that time is going to allow you to recharge your spirit and connect with the healing energy of nature. And remember, these are, our healers, our intuitives of the Zodiac. So really, we do have to take that time for ourselves to really tune into that and feed ourselves, nourish ourselves, our spirits, our minds, our bodies. All of that is important. Number 4, compassionate self-talk. Okay? So again, don't be so hard on yourself, right? Be compassionate with yourself. Practice kindness towards yourself. Nurture your inner child and embrace your sensitivity and vulnerabilities. I know we get a lot of flack for being sensitive, but sensitive people have a place in this world, and we have a value in this world, right? And so embracing those things about yourself, but also understanding, when you're having a pity party or when you're, doing too much. But, always practice compassion and kindness with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. We do make mistakes. We do things wrong. Some people think we're crazy. But taking that time to really just be compassionate and kind with ourselves and the way we talk to ourselves is so very important. Okay, Pisces? All right. Now, number 5 is tuning into our spiritual practices. So Pisces, again, is the sign, it's our last sign of the Zodiac, so it's the sign representative of spirit and spirituality. Different from religion and philosophy, we're talking about the actual just spiritual nature of things, right? So our Pisces energies are usually very connected spiritually, and if they're not, they're probably suffering in some way. So if you are not connected spiritually, this may be, a time to really find out what that connection piece is for you. Again, I'm not talking about joining an organized religion or anything like that, but having a spiritual practice is very important for us. So meditation, prayer, yoga. I know we're here in the West, and in the United States, and many people think of yoga as an exercise, and it definitely, is wonderful for the body, but yoga is a whole ethical system, and there's definitely a spiritual component there. And so really diving into maybe, not just the asana practice of yoga, which is the body work that we all see we see everyone doing, but getting into those other limbs of yoga. There are 8 of them. So, getting into a little more of what yoga is all about, that might be something helpful for you. But all of these are really going to help us connect with our inner selves, right? And cultivate a sense of peace and inner guidance, right? So we need that spiritual practice because we have to have a way of guiding ourselves through this world. Number 6, boundaries. So, again, learning to set healthy boundaries with others to protect our sensitive energies, right? And prevent emotional overwhelm. A lot of times, again, we are people pleasers. We want to say yes to everything. We want to please everyone. We don't want people to be upset with us. We don't want people to feel a way about us. And we're often intuiting other people's feelings and energies about us. And so we want all of that to feel good, right? But sometimes it's just not. Sometimes you have to have your own boundaries, because if you're always saying yes, you're very likely overwhelmed with all the things that you have said yes to. So protect your energy, Pisces. This is also going to nurture your relationships with empathy and compassion. Boundaries are not all bad. It's not about, being harsh with people or, unkind with people, but it's just being firm about, your no's and your not right now's. Being firm with those, because that's going to help you, but it's also going to help your relationships with other people to have those boundaries. Number 7, because we talked about this a little on the podcast, intuitive listening. Okay, so trusting your intuition. Again, I think we talked about this just a minute ago with Scorpio, really tuning in, learning to trust your intuition and your inner wisdom to guide you in your decision making and navigating life's challenges. Tuning into your gut feelings and subtle insights. So again, our water signs, our Pisces, we're very attuned to subtleties. We're very attuned to the things that maybe people who are, have different energies are not as attuned to. And so learning really to trust that. It took me a long time in my life to really get to the point of trusting my own intuition. And a lot of times it comes up that if I don't listen to my intuition, it almost immediately proves wrong for me, right? It almost immediately shows me, yep, you should have trusted yourself there. So I sometimes have to slow myself down because I got Aries Mercury, right? And so Aries is a lot more fast moving than Pisces energy, a lot more. So slowing myself down, tuning into myself, trusting my own intuition and inner wisdom always serves me better than when I don't. It always serves me better than when I don't. And it almost always proves itself to me pretty immediately that I should have done it. Number 8, art therapy. Just makes me feel good just saying it. I love art therapy. I love creating. Again, I'm very much a creative. I love all different art forms. And so using art as a form of therapy for yourself to process your emotions, release your tension, and gain insight into your subconscious through that creative expression. Sometimes the things that we bring forth in our art give us a lot of insight about what's actually happening deeper inside of ourselves. Number 9, again, another one of my faves, music therapy. We did talk about this a little on the podcast, but listening to music that resonates with your emotions and soothes your soul. Using it as a form of therapy to uplift your mood and promote relaxation. Now, here's my caveat here. Now, okay, so I'll tell you this. On our podcast, the I'm Such a Pisces podcast, we created a playlist called I'm Not Crying, You're Crying. And it's literally, maybe it's like 8 or 9 hours of just songs to cry to, because we know, our Pisces and the energy just needs to get a good cry in. I get a good cry in probably at least once a week, honestly. Like, it might not be a long cry, but I might get a little tear come out. I had one last night. I was watching some, things that really touched my heart and just, I had a little crack. And that's all good. We got to get those emotions out. But here's my caveat with music with Pisces, because again, we do love a pity party. We do love to wallow a little bit. Be mindful about the space that you are in with music, the space that you are in emotionally, and then bringing music into that space. We don't want to necessarily feed negative emotions. It's okay to allow them to release, and so music can help us with that. But just being mindful, just like we talked about those mindful escapes, it's okay to listen to sad music a little bit, but give yourself a time limit, because we know that we're prone to do some wallowing. We know that we're prone to just stay in a state of pity for ourselves. So don't let yourself get trapped in that, right? Set a time limit for yourself. Okay, I'm gonna listen for an hour or whatever. I'm gonna get my cry out, and then I'm going to do something else that's going to be more therapeutic for myself, more uplifting for myself. So it's okay to feel the down emotions, but you got to bring yourself back to a space of not neutrality, but a space of balance. You don't have to be all the way happy, but you at least got to be in a good mid-ground space. Number 10, gentle movement. So, engaging in gentle movement practices such as Tai Chi, Qigong, or restorative yoga. And of course, there are different types of yoga, right? So we're talking about those more gentle types here. We're not doing Ashtanga or anything. Hey, if that works for you, Pisces, if you're out here doing Ashtanga because you're, that vibes with you, probably got some fire energy in you, probably a little more heavy than you know, or you might know. So again, this is why I said in one of the other series that you really want to look at your whole birth chart, because while you may be a Pisces sun, you might have a lot of other different energy in you. And so you might actually feel more attuned towards some of the other sign or the other elemental energies and what those practices are for those energies. So just, look at your whole birth chart, see what you got going on there. But in general, for Pisces, that slow, gentle movement is really going to be helpful to balance your energy and also to release that physical tension. Number 11 is having alone time. Now, Pisces, I don't feel like as a general energy, this is super difficult. We do like to be around other people, but Pisces is a more introverted energy. So we do really need that alone time for solitude and introspection, but also to recharge and reflect for ourselves, reflect on your dreams and your emotions and your spiritual journey. And so all of those things really do require that alone time. Number 12 is sensitivity nourishment. Okay, so again, we are embracing our sensitive natures, right? So surrounding ourselves with beauty and art and inspiring environments that are going to nourish our sensitive soul and uplift our spirits. So if you can tell, I've created an environment even in my home that makes me feel, nourished in a in a way, like nourished in a visual space, in an energetic way. I have bright colors and plants, and I have all of these different elements in my home because it makes me feel good. And so just creating those environments for yourselves. Number 13, again, with the healthy escapism. We know that we're going to try to escape, so try to do it in a mindful and a healthy way. So finding ways to escape from stress or reality, such as through creative projects, fantasy books, imaginative hobbies, while staying grounded in the present moment. So it's okay to find those escapes. Just find healthy ways to do it, right? So, I will say this, Pisces is prone to drug use, to substance use, and abuse. So you really have to understand where that line is and where that line is for you. And so be mindful here. I'm not exactly like completely against drug use or substance use, but you really do need to know yourself. And if you are struggling, personally, when I'm in a certain space, I will actually abstain from any substance use, because if I'm in a more, if I'm experiencing depression, I'm probably not going to fuck around with substances, because that's a disaster waiting to happen, right? Like, it's not hard to let yourself go deeper and deeper into that negative emotion, right? So you want to do things that are going to be positive for that. So just understanding how you operate, right? And making those choices for yourself. Number 14, having empathetic connections. We love empathy. We love a little sympathy too. Be sorry for me. Feel sorry for me. No, but having empathetic connections. So having people that we're cultivating deep and empathetic connections with, others who are appreciative of our sensitivity and are going to offer support and understanding without judgment. We all really need that, but us Pisces, we just really need some people that understand our nature, right? And that we are a little more sensitive, and that are understanding of that, and they're not like, oh, you're so sensitive. Not judgy over here. That's not what we need. Especially not in those times when we're, really experiencing difficult emotions. So you really want to have some good supportive people around you. All right. Now our last practice for Pisces is self-care rituals. And because I have talked about self-care rituals before, I won't get really heavy, but remembering to establish rituals that cater to our senses, promote relaxation and rejuvenation, such as aromatherapy, maybe massages, warm baths infused with, essential oils. Oh, that sounds amazing. Yes. Have a ritual for yourself. Take some of these practices we've talked about, turn it into a ritual for yourself. Look into other practices, right? This is not an exhaustive list by any means, and also self-care is a very personal thing. So these are suggestions, right? These are suggestions for spaces for self-care for the signs. But those specific things are going to be very individual to you and your energetic makeup. So again, get your whole birth chart together, find out what energy is dominant for you. Even if your sun energy might not be the dominant energy. So really getting into that birth chart. And if you need help reading that birth chart, holler at your girl. Get a reading, y'all. So again, this has been wonderful. I hope that you got something from this, my water signs. I hope that we are practicing good self-care, because oftentimes we are the people that are doing a lot of pouring out of ourselves into others. So remembering that you cannot do that work without also pouring into yourself, okay? So let me know if you found some helpful practices, and I'll see you on the next series, y'all. Thank you. See you later.